So far in this series on the three paths to God, Karma, Gyan, and Bhakti, I explained to you that karma on its own cannot take a soul to God, that it must be combined with Bhakti, and Bhakti means surrendering the mind to God. So if mental surrender to God is combined with good karma, then it is called Karma Yoga, and that can take someone to God. Similarly, the path of Gyan on its own is not enough for God realization or liberation from Maya. Gyan, or the path of Gyan on its own, can only take one up to self-realization, Atma Gyan. To go beyond that Atma Gyani must surrender to the personal form of God to receive His grace in order to be liberated from Maya. So the Gyani who surrenders to God is doing Bhakti. That's what surrender means. And that means he becomes a Gyan Yogi. Just like the Karmi becomes a Karma Yogi when he adds in Bhakti, the Gyani becomes a Gyan Yogi. And a Gyan Yogi can be liberated from Maya through God's grace, not through his own effort. There are some who follow a philosophy which was propounded by Shankaracharya more than 2,000 years ago. It's called the advait, which, when you see, there are three prime scriptures that all the Jagadgurus wrote their explanations on. The Upanishads, the Brahma Sutra, and the Gita. It's called Prasthana Trayi. So when Shankaracharya, Adi Jagadguru Shankaracharya, wrote his Bhashya on all of these great scriptures, the theory that he set forth is called Advaitvad. Other Jagadgurus set forth other theories. Shankaracharya later added more to his theory, which you'll see in a little bit, but for now just understand that those who follow that Advaitvad of Shankaracharya nowadays, what they say is, no, we don't need Bhakti. We can attain God just through thinking. If I remember that I am Brahm, then I'll be liberated. That's their philosophy. That this whole world, it doesn't actually exist. It is Brahm. And I am Brahma. See the difference? Brahm means God and Brahm means illusion, a confusion or agyan. So they say that ye maya vaya kuch nahi hota hai, ye Brahm hi hai. And I am Brahm, but I have forgotten. That's why this ye sab dikh raha hai. You can summarize the whole philosophy in one Sanskrit phrase. Jiva Brahmaiva Jagan Mithya Na Para. Jeev is Brahm. And the world is Mithya. It doesn't even exist. And there's nothing else other than that. So it means only Brahm exists. That's why it's called Advait. Dvait means two. Advait, no other. Just one. Brahm. So in his Advaitvad, Shankaracharya took the three eternal tattva described in our Vedas. Ved refers to three eternal tattva. Aja mekam lohit shukla krishnam bahvi praja srijamanam sarupa maya. Ajo hyeko jushamano nushete jahatyenam bhukta bhoga. Jeev, Majonya, Brahm. These three are referred to in many verses of our Vedas. This one is from Shvetashvatra Upanishad. So Shankaracharya took those three eternal tattva, God, the souls, and Maya, and he reduced it to one. He said, no. Souls and God are not two separate things. In fact, souls are not many. There's just one God. And there's a theory called Bimba Pratibimbavad. Like the sun is shining in the sky, and if you have a bunch of buckets of water. You see the sun shining in each of those buckets. So does that mean there are many suns? No, there's only one sun, but it's being seen in all these places. Similarly, there's only God, but all of these souls are, it seems like there are souls, but actually there's only one soul, and the soul and God are one and the same. So there he eliminated souls from the picture, and then he said this world is just an illusion, it doesn't even exist. So he eliminated Maya from the picture, and he said just Brahm exists. So in this theory, Brahma, God, himself is confused. That's how he thinks himself to be a soul. I'm just telling you how it is in this advait. You are Brahm. So how is it that you find yourself in this illusion of the world thinking you're a soul when you're actually God? You're confused. You are actually God. Now, someone who knows more about the scriptures may say that, no, in our scriptures, although soul and God are said to have some similarities, like both are alive, both are Chaitan, and both are eternally existing. But when it comes to power, God is Sarva Shaktiman. Souls are Alpa Shaktiman. We have very little power. God is Sarvagya. He knows everything. We are Alpagya. We know very little. He is Sarva Vyapak. He exists everywhere, and we are Anu. We're spot existent, individual souls. So there are such great differences between souls and God. So in their philosophy, they say, no, those differences only appear, they're apparent because you've forgotten who you are. So if you remember through the knowledge, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, I was telling you before, they meditate on this, that I am God, I am God, I am God. By meditating in that way, you remember that you are God. And then the illusion goes away. So through this process, if you actually remember that you are God, then the whole world stops existing, because the only reason it was existing is because you were confused and you were having this illusion of the world. So as soon as you remember your God, you become omnipresent, all-powerful, all-knowing God, and the whole world ceases to exist. This is their philosophy. So such people who follow this advait philosophy, they say, so where's the need for bhakti? You're saying even a jnani needs to do bhakti, and I'm saying no. All I have to do is remember that I am God, and the whole thing takes care of itself. There's no need for God's grace. There's no need for bhakti. So if we examine this philosophy, you will find with a couple of simple logical points, the whole philosophy crumbles. The entire Advaitvad crumbles just with a couple simple points. Ask the question, this Agyan, that God somehow has forgotten that he's God, he's become confused, is this Agyan eternal? Or did it start one day? It must be one or the other, right? If God doesn't know that he's God, and thus we're all confused when actually we're God, so either we've been eternally confused, or we became confused one day. So, let's say, is it that we are eternally confused? Then Advaitvad would be proven untrue, because then you have two tattva. You have God existing eternally, and you have the Agyan existing eternally. That would be two tattva. So if they say, the followers of Advaitvad, if they say this confusion has existed since eternity, this Agyan has existed since eternity, then you just proved that there are two eternal tattva, not one. So it's not Advaitvad anymore, it's Dvaitvad. Or if you say it began one day, then the question becomes, how did God get confused? If God is the only thing in existence, let's say we go back in time to before God was confused. So he's doing fine, he's God, he's blissful, he's all-knowing. How did he become confused when he's the only thing that exists? You see, let's say you're walking on a dark night and you see a rope coiled up on the side of the path. You might become confused and think that it's a snake. But would you ever become confused and think, I might be a snake? You don't get confused about yourself. You get confused about something else. So if God is the only thing that exists, how could he become confused about himself? It doesn't make sense. So neither way makes any sense. And if God was fine and one day ignorance overtook God, it means ignorance, that Agyan, is more powerful than God. Again, is this something you're willing to accept? Then if you make the effort and you become unconfused and you remember that you are God, and again you become all-knowing and all-powerful, then what's to stop that Agyan from again overtaking you? Then why bother? Let's just stay as we are now. So from no angle does this theory make sense, even from this one particular point, that when did this Agyan happen? Is it eternal or did it happen one day? Neither way makes sense. We could ask another question. If there are not uncountable souls, if in fact all of us are just one Brahm, and due to our confusion we think we are many, well, in our history, it's recorded in our scriptures that there have been hundreds and thousands of souls who got liberated. So if they got liberated, it means they got freed from the confusion. They were freed from Agyan. So if one soul gets liberated, we should all get liberated, right? Because we're not many, we're one. So if one soul gets liberated, we should all be liberated, but it doesn't happen that way. So it's another hole, a logical hole in the theory. And finally, I mean, there are many, many more. I'm just giving you 4 basic points here today. If this world is just an illusion and only exists due to our ignorance, that it's not really here, then why don't we just go right to Shankaracharya and say, Shankaracharya ji, after you became liberated, why did you keep eating food? Why did you keep sleeping in a house? Why did you write books on paper? I mean, if this world is just an illusion, what's the need of all of that? I mean, we should have all become liberated when he got liberated anyway, right? Because we're all one. There's only one Brahm. There's no souls. So from no angle does the Advaitvad make sense. And this is the reason that no other historical saint backed this theory up. Every other historical saint contradicted this Advaitvad. Shankaracharya was the only one. You see, there were 3 other Jagadgurus after Shankaracharya. Jagadguru Nimbarkacharya, he had the Dvaitadvaitvad. Jagadguru Ramanujacharya had Vishishtadvaitvad. And Jagadguru Madhavacharya had Dvaitvad. They all contradicted this Advaitvad of Shankaracharya. Vallabhacharya was not formally named Jagadguru, but he did write Bhashya on the Prasthanatrayi, and he established Vishuddhadvaitvad, which also contradicted Shankaracharya's theory. Then we had other great saints like Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji and his great disciples like Rup, Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jeev Goswami, they also wrote great explanations. And they all contradicted this theory of advaitvad. That's where I got the logic that I presented to you today from their writings. So, they all of these great saints, and I just told you a few, they all accepted that no, according to the Vedas, there is not only one tattva, there are three tattva. God, souls, and Maya, Brahma, Jeev, Maya. Where Ved says, Na Vedavin Manute Tam Brihantam Ekamevad Dvitiyam Brahma Nehana Nasti Kinchana Chandogyopanishad, that there is only God and nothing else. Whereas in other places, Ved is saying, no, there's three tattva. Why is Ved saying that? Because God is the one giving life to the souls, and He's the one controlling Maya. But that doesn't mean Maya doesn't exist, and that doesn't mean souls don't exist. But because He pervades them, from a physical point of view, you could say, well, there's nothing but God, because we are pervaded by God, and Maya is pervaded by God. So from that point of view, there's nothing but God. However, from the point of view of our own individual existence and the fact that we can perform our own free will actions, we're different from God. We're a separate tattva. So all of these great saints accepted that fact, that souls are separate from God and have to try to attain God and need to surrender to God to get God's grace in order to be liberated from Maya or to get divine bliss and knowledge. They also all accepted that this Maya, this world, is not fake. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mayinan tu maheshwaram. Shvetashvatra Upanishad says Maya is a power of God. Not an illusion of your mind, a power of God. Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Shree Krishna says, Maya is my power. In the Bhagavatam, Pradhana Purusheshvara, both the souls and Maya are powers of God. The Ramayana says, Sodasi Raghubir ki samujhe mithya sopi chute na Ram kripa binu nath kahu padropi. Tulsidas Ji says, even if someone wants to believe that Maya is only an illusion, they still can't get freed from it without Ram's grace. Rajat Sipa Mahabhas Jimi Yatha Bhanu Karvari Jadapi Mrishati Tihu Kal Maha Brahmana Sakai Kotari. Jasu kripa as bhram miti jai girija soi kripalu raghurai. He says, if someone just believes that this whole world is an illusion, they still can't free themselves from Maya just by thinking of it as an illusion. Only through Ram's grace can they be freed from Maya. So, Maya is an actual power which exists. It is not an illusion of our mind. So that is one eternal tattva, eternally existing, Maya. The souls also eternally existing, and God. So all of these great saints, they accepted that souls have been under Maya forever. We never came under Maya or got separated from God, because I already gave you the logic behind that. Had we been with God and then somehow Maya made us separate from God, it means Maya is more powerful than God. What's the use of getting God realized if one day Maya can just come along and again re-separate you from God? So this is unacceptable. Thus, the other must be true, that we have been eternally separated from God. Again, if someone asks the question, didn't God create us? Again, that's unacceptable. If God created us, why would He have created us under Maya? We would have a big complaint then. You should have made us properly. Why did you put us in this Maya, under the bondage of Maya? So that's unacceptable as well. Thus, we know that we have existed forever. God has not created us. This is what our scriptures say. We are ajaha, unborn. God sends us forth because during Mahapralaya, He keeps us inside Him. Maya inside Him, but then again, once He creates the universe, not out of nothing, He just activates Maya. Maya creates the universe, and then He sends the souls forth to be born. But that is an eternal cycle. It never began. So this is a little bit of a very deep philosophy. Tonight is probably the most technical philosophy that I'm giving you in this whole series. But it's important to understand because this advait is very popular in the world today. And it confuses a lot of people. Imagine I'm telling you on one hand that you have to do bhakti and receive God's grace. And on the other hand, you can read some other philosophy if someone is writing about the advaitvad. You may read some other philosophy or hear another speech where someone's saying, no, all you have to do is remember that you are God and it's all good. You'll be fine. So the correct philosophy is no. Even if you practice that path of Gyan and meditate on you being God and get to the point of being Atma Gyani, you're still under Maya. So then you need to surrender to God to get free, liberated. So, saints and the scriptures tell us that God has existed forever, souls have existed forever, and souls are uncountable in number, unlimited in number, not one or two, unlimited souls, but one God and one Maya, and this cycle of creation and dissolution of the universe has gone on forever, and we have been under Maya forever. Even during Mahapralaya, when we go into God, we're still under Maya, and then when God produces the universe and we get born in the world, we're still under Maya. So God didn't put us here as any kind of punishment, and we were never separated from Him. We've been like this forever. Now, if we become free from Maya, again, since there are unlimited souls in existence, one soul being freed from Maya does not free everybody. And this is backed up by history. So many souls have become saints, yet we're still all here under Maya. So think of it like a prisoner being released from jail. That doesn't mean the other prisoners are also released. So if someone is liberated from Maya, Maya's still here. The jail is still there. The other prisoners are still there. Just one prisoner has been released. And Maya is not destroyed when a soul becomes liberated. It just means that Maya can no longer affect you. So the effect of Maya is finished on that soul, but Maya still exists because na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. Gita. A tattva, an existing thing, cannot be destroyed. And if something doesn't exist, it can't be brought into existence. So Maya can never be destroyed. So when a person becomes God-realized, Maya still remains. And after liberation or God-realization, a soul does not become God. Because again, if the soul became God, it would mean the soul ceased to exist, right? A soul is a soul, God is God, and if the both become absolutely one, it means one of them has to stop existing. Or both stop existing and some new tattva is created. So it can't happen that way. You can say the apparent identity of the soul is lost. Like, let's say we have a mountain of rice, and you're standing at a distance, and you see another person takes a single grain of rice and tosses it, adds it to the pile. From a distance, it looks like that grain of rice disappeared into the pile. But if you come closer, you'll see that, oh no, it was added, it's still there. So something like that, when the soul is liberated, when the soul of a Jnani is liberated and he merges into formless God, he loses his apparent identity because he no longer has a physical body or a mind, but his soul still exists. And as a soul, a pure soul, he merges into God like a river merging into the ocean. So the form of the river is lost, but those little water molecules haven't been destroyed, right? They just joined all the other water molecules in the ocean. Similarly, a soul merges with God's Jiv Shakti into his pure Jiv Shakti. That's the state of liberation of a Jnani. Or you can say merges into formless God. So, now you understand that it is important to do bhakti. This world does really exist. We are individual souls, one of unlimited. And you might be surprised to know that, in fact, after all, Shankaracharya also accepted just what I finished proving to you. You see, Shankaracharya, he lived an amazing life. By age 8, he knew all 4 Vedas. By age 12, he knew all 6 Darshan Shastras, Purva Mimamsa, Vaisheshik, Nyaya, Sankhya, Yoga, and the Brahma Sutra. By 16, he started writing his Bhashya on Upanishads, Brahma Sutra, and Gita. And he also did his Digvijay. He went all around India and became Jagadguru by defeating all the scholars of that time in debating. They all accepted his philosophy. By age 20, he was done with such activities, and from 20 to 32, he left this earth at age 32. From age 20 to 32, he did bhakti to Shree Krishna. So let's look at his writings after his advait vad. That was his first thing he produced. After that, what are some of the things he wrote? Take one verse from his Prabodh Sudhakar, which is actually his last book that he wrote. Satyapi bheda pagame nath tavaham namam kinastvam samudro hitaranga kvachana samudro nataranga. He says, O God, although you and I are alike in many ways, yet I am from you. You are not from me. And he gave an analogy. He said, just like waves are of the ocean, they're from the ocean is not from the waves. Similarly, souls are from you. You are not from the souls. In other words, you are you and I am me. There's a difference. So he accepted that there's a difference between God and soul. He said, Shuddhayati hinantaratma Krishna bhakti padambhojamrite. The mind cannot be purified without bhakti to Shree Krishna. Just like you heard in that story yesterday when he told that Brahmin that to become qualified for this path of Gyan, first you're going to have to go and do Bhakti, because Bhakti is the best way to purify your heart. He himself taught Krishna Bhakti to his own mother. Now that should tell you something. Would you ever do something or teach something to your mother that wouldn't be for her own good? He taught her to do Bhakti to Shree Krishna, and she became God realized. She attained Shree Krishna. And he himself did devotion to Shree Krishna. Look at his writings. He says, Yamuna nikat tatasthita. He gives a big, long, beautiful explanation that on the bank of Yamuna, Sri Krishna is sitting there. He's leaning up against a tree. He's got one foot crossed over the other. He's wearing his pitambar, banmala, which is so fragrant that the bees are coming and buzzing around his head. They're attracted by the fragrance. He's surrounded by cows. The gwalbals are there, the gopis are there surrounding him. He says, this is what I meditate on. Hridam bhoje Krishna sajal jaladashyamal tanu saroja Sragvi mukut katkadya bharanvan sharadrakanath pratimavadana Shri Muralikan vahandhyeyo Gopi Gana Parivrita Kumkumachita. He says, this is what I meditate on. I think of Sri Krishna, dark bluish complexion like a fresh rain-laden cloud. Standing in a kunj, surrounded by gopis, the beautiful full moon in the sky, playing on his flute, with beautiful, large, lotus-shaped eyes. That's what I meditate on. Bhagavati tavati re nirmatra shanoham vigat vishaya trishna Krishna maradhayami. He says, he's sitting on the bank of Ganga Ji and he says, Oh Bhagavati Ganga, I just want to stay here forever. I want to sit on your banks because the water that flows between your banks is the same water that washed the lotus feet of Sri Krishna on its way down from the celestial abodes. I just want to sit here renouncing all desires, not eating or drinking anything other than your holy water, and Krishna maradhayami. Krishnam aradhayami. I just want to do aradhana to Sri Krishna. Kamyopasanayarthayantyanudinam kinchit phalam svepsitam kechit swargamathapvargamapare yogadiyaghyadibhi asmakam yadunandananghriyugaladhyanavadhanarthinam kim lokena damena kim nripatina swargapavargaishcha kim. He says some people do good karma with the desire of going to Swarg and enjoying over there. I have no such desire. Some people follow the path of Gyan or Yoga with the hope of attaining liberation. He says, I don't want liberation. What do I want with liberation? What do I want? Asmakam, as far as I'm concerned, what I desire. Yadu nandanangri yugaladhya vadhanarthinam. My goal is to become like a bumblebee, attracted to the lotus feet of Shree Krishna. I just want the foot dust of his holy lotus feet. These are the words of Shankaracharya, who in his Bhashya didn't even mention the personal form of God. He only talked about formless God. And look at how he himself is doing devotion to Sri Krishna. One of his followers of Advaitvad, a very famous saint, more recent than Shankaracharya, most of you have probably heard of him, Madhusudan Saraswati, a famous Advaiti. He followed the path of Advait to its end, and afterwards became a devotee of Sri Krishna. And he wrote Bhashya on the Gita. And when he was explaining the verse, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. See, Shankaracharya had already explained this because he explained the Gita. Now, the literal meaning of this Sarvadharman Parityajya verse, Shri Krishna is saying, surrender to me and I will liberate you. Surrender to me. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Come and take shelter in me. So how did Shankaracharya translate that? That Krishna, speaking as the soul, is saying, surrender to yourself and you will be liberated. So Shankaracharya twisted the words. Madhusudan Saraswati, he said, Pramanatopi nirnitam Krishna mahatmyam adbhutam na shaknuvanti ye sodhum te mudha nirayangata. Contradicting his own master's philosophy, he says, if someone is that foolish to not accept the supremacy of Sri Krishna, Krishna mahatmyam adbhutam, the greatness, the unbelievable, amazing greatness, mahatmya of Sri Krishna, na shaknuvanti sodhum, if he can't accept that, listen to how harsh his words are. This is an advaiti jnani talking about Krishna. He says, the one who can't accept that, nirayangata, te mudha, first of all, he's a fool, and nirayang means narak, and gataha means jata hai. He goes to narak. Imagine, this is an advaiti contradicting his own master's philosophy. So, you see that Shankaracharya was the only one who propounded this philosophy, but in the end, he corrected it. He actually established the right philosophy before leaving the earth planet, but his original Advaitvad, it became more popular in the world, so people follow that and take it out of context of the rest of his life, and they get confused. Now, why did Shankaracharya do that? There were reasons. Sometimes, according to the situation of a particular time, divine personalities come on our earth planet and they teach the philosophy a little bit differently. And they have reasons. At that time, when Shankaracharya came, there were two things that were very popular. There was the Purva Mimamsa, which is one of the 6 Darshan Shastras that doesn't deal with God. So it just teaches ritual good actions to attain Swarg. That had become very popular and people were just doing that and ignoring God. And then there was the philosophy of Bhagwan Buddha. He had also come And he had taught basically a non-godly philosophy. There was no mention of God or even soul in his philosophy. So to counteract that, to reestablish, because even Gautam Buddha didn't accept the Vedas in his philosophy. So to reestablish the authority of the Vedas and the greatness of Sanatana Dharma, Shankaracharya just took a very narrow view of the philosophy, and using that, he defeated all those Mimamsa scholars and Bauddha scholars, and he reestablished Sanatana Dharma. But it was part of a greater plan. That wasn't the complete philosophy, what Shankaracharya taught. So you see, even Gautam Buddha, he's not just a saint, he's God himself who descended on the earth, and he even taught a non-godly philosophy. So at times, for specific reasons, divine personalities do come and deviate from the actual teachings of the Vedas, but then it comes back. So we're back on track. But if we take only Shankaracharya's philosophy of advait, then it's easy to get off the track. So now you understand that bhakti is required. The jnani has to do bhakti, otherwise just by meditating on himself as God, he can't free himself from Maya any more than a prisoner who's imprisoned in jail. Let's say he gets the knowledge of who the king is. Oh, now I know who the king is. Will that free him from the jail? No. So just knowing who you are, that's not going to free you from Maya. You need God's grace to get free from Maya. So the jnani has to do bhakti. In other words, he has to surrender to God. And the bhakt has to do bhakti, obviously. वो तो करता ही है. But the way they do bhakti is, it's done in two different ways. You see, dvaivav brahmano rupe murtan chaiva murtan cha. Ved says God has two main aspects. Murt means with form, sakar, and amurt means nirakar, without form. Shankaracharya also not only accepted this philosophy, he himself wrote this same verse, just slightly turned around. He said, Murtan chaiva murtan dvaye eva brahmane brahmano rupe. So he also accepted that God has both a formless aspect and a personal form. Shankaracharya accepted that. So, those who worship God in his formless aspect, but surrender to God, they are called Gyan yogis. And those who surrender to God in a personal form, they are called Bhakta yogis. Yogi means he's joining his mind with God, or surrendering to God. So one is a Gyan yogi, one is a Bhakti yogi, but both are doing bhakti. One is called Abheda Bhakti and one is called Bheda Bhakti, because the jnani is not meditating on his relationship with God like a Bhakt does. He's meditating on his oneness with God. The true Gyan yogi, see, it's not the same as just thinking you are God. He conceives of God's omnipresence and then feels his oneness, or conceives of his oneness with God. So he's accepting God's existence, and he also knows that he needs the grace of the personal form of God in order to be liberated, but his focus is on formless God. That's his meditation. So that's Abheda Bhakti. He's focused on the sameness of soul and God, not the difference. And Bheda Bhakti means when a soul feels, I am your servant and you are my master. You are God. You give life to my soul. I belong to you. That means there's a relationship. You're my divine mother. or my Divine Father. So that's Bheda Bhakti. It means God is God, you are you, and you want to surrender to God and experience God. But both are Bhakti. So the Gyan Yogi does Abheda Bhakti, and the Bhakti Yogi does Bheda Bhakti. Now, which one is better? Okay, we accepted that we have to do Bhakti. We got to that point. Everybody has to do Bhakti. But now, should we do Bhakti to formless God, like the Gyan Yogi does, or should we do Bhakti to the personal form of God, like Ram or Krishna, like the Bhakti Yogi does? Which one is better? So as I mentioned yesterday, this very question was posed to Shree Krishna in the Gita by Arjuna. Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam paripasate ye chapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Shri Krishna, people surrender to you or do bhakti to you in two different ways. They worship your avyakt form, your unmanifest or formless form, or they worship you as Krishna in your personal form. Which one is better? Tesham, out of the two, ke, which one? Yoga vittama means which one is better. So Shri Krishna answered directly. Mayyaveshya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhavan bhajate yo mam te me yukta tamamata. The one who worships me as Krishna is better, plain and simple. Although, he says, te prapnuvanti mameva. They both come to me. They don't attain someone different. The one who worships me as Krishna and the one who worships me in my formless aspect both come to me because Brahmano hi pratisthaham. Gita. Brahm, the formless God, is established in me. Krishna's own words. I am the pratishtha of Brahm. Like light is established in the sun, right? Light comes from the sun. The sun doesn't come from the light. He says, I am the pratishtha. Brahm is from me, like the light of my body. So if someone surrenders to if someone worships my formless aspect, they're worshipping me. So they will come to me. So both the Gyan Yogi and the Bhakti Yogi attain me. Then why are you saying the one who worships you in your personal form is better? He says, Kleshodhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta higatir dukham dehavadbhiravapyate. He says the main reason is that the path of Gyan Yoga is extremely difficult. He uses the word kleshaha adhika taraha. Klesh means difficulty, and adhik means a lot. Adhik tar means extreme difficulty on the path of Gyan. Kathopanishad says, following the path of Gyan, where you do devotion to formless God, it's as difficult as walking on the edge of a sword. It's so easy to fall off. See, we talked yesterday about even to qualify for the path of Gyan is very difficult. It's a very high qualification. You have to be totally renounced from the world to follow the path of Gyan. Whereas anyone is qualified for the path of Bhakti. So now understand why that qualification is necessary. Tulsidas Ji says, Kahat kathin, samujhat kathin, sadhan kathin vivek. He says, Kahat kathin. For your guru to even explain the philosophy to you, to put the philosophy into words of formless God is very difficult. Samujhat kathin, to understand it is even more difficult. Just take an example. Adrishtam avyavaharya magrahya malakshanam achintyam avyapdeshya mekatma pratyayasaram prapancho pashamam shantam shivam advaitam Mandukyopanishad. A description of the formless God upon whom you have to meditate if you're going to do Gyan Yoga. He cannot be seen, he is adrishta. He cannot be related to in any way. He is avyavaharya. He cannot be grasped in any way, either by your senses or by your intellect. Agrahya. He has no describable characteristics of any kind. Alakshana. If you say, please describe this Brahm, this formless God for me, sorry, there's no lakshana. He is achintya. You cannot conceive of him in your mind. So he has no form, no name, no describable characteristics. That's Brahm. But Brahm is not his name. It's just a word we've assigned for him. So now meditate on him. Meditate on what, Guruji? I mean, there's nothing to hold on to. It's so abstract. Yes. Kahat kathin, samujhat kathin, sadhana kathin vivek. The sadhana is very difficult because on one side it requires total renunciation from the world, and on the other hand it requires you to meditate on such an abstract thing which is inconceivable. Thus, the requirement to be already very highly evolved spiritually, to have purified your antahkarana to a great degree before you could even attempt to listen to this philosophy, let alone meditate on formless God. Nowadays, people don't even worry about this. Oh yes, yes, aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. Do you have any idea? That's so far down the road, you skip the first 7 steps of Gyan Marg. So anyway, real Gyan Marg that would actually work, and instead of multiplying your ahankar, would actually bring you to liberation. It's very difficult and requires a very high qualification and control over the mind. You have to have control over your mind before you can even start on Gyan Marg. Otherwise, how will you keep your mind from running back towards worldly desires and just thinking about a niras Brahm? See, our mind wants to experience ras, right? That's what we want, some pleasure. Forget about pleasure on Gyan Marg. First of all, worldly desires? No, absolutely not. Any fun in the meditation? Nope. Just think of formless God. That's it. So it's like just someone has a dry piece of bread. That's like worldly pleasures. Okay, for a saint says this worldly pleasure you guys are running after, that's like a stale, crusty piece of bread. Give me that. It's no good. And he throws it away. But I don't have anything else to eat, so it's of value to me. That's how we feel about the worldly pleasures. So Gyan Marg says, too bad. Forget about that. Now just desire to be liberated from Maya. That's it. Whereas Bhakti Marg says, I'm giving you a beautiful form to meditate on to replace that. So Bhakti Marg is like putting a nice, full, freshly home-cooked meal in front of you and saying, now will you forget about that dry piece of bread? See, isn't this better? So there's ras on the path of bhakti that draws your mind. When you think about Krishna and his leela, there's ras in that attracts your mind and soothes your mind. So the path of bhakti goes with the flow of the mind. It says, keep your desires, just redirect them towards God. And Gyan Marg says, stop, throw out the desires. It's like water has a nature to run downhill, right? So Gyan Marg would be like pumping the water back uphill. Takes a lot of effort. So our mind has a nature to desire. and to want to experience pleasure. So Gyan Marg goes against that nature of the mind and says, stop desiring and just you should want only one thing, to be liberated from all of this. That's it. One desire on Gyan Marg, mumukchutva, desire for absolute liberation. Liberation from your desires, from your experiences, liberation from everything. That's the desire of a Gyan Margi. Whereas Bhakti, instead of pumping the water back uphill, which is on Gyan Marg, you're basically trying to stop your thoughts and stop your desires. Bhakti is like digging another channel, like the water's running downhill. You want it to go somewhere else, so you just dig a deeper channel beside it. And then the water naturally will follow that channel. So you follow the flow of the mind, or you go with the nature of the mind, which wants to visualize a beautiful form, which wants love and pleasure. So you direct that towards God. Simple as that. So that's why Gyan Marg is so difficult. It's very abstract to start with, and then it requires a high degree of renunciation and doesn't give you any ras to keep you going in that direction. You just, through the force of your intellect, have to stay on the path. So the Gyani falls from his path again and again. One other reason why, not just that you can say that Gyan Marg is very dry for the mind, so there's very little attraction for the mind. Not only that, but the Gyani has no protection of God's grace on his path. That's why even an Atma Gyani can fall. Remember yesterday I told you that Arudha Yogopi Nipatyate Dha. Shankaracharya said, even after becoming an Atma Gyani, the Gyani can fall. Whereas, Tathanate Madhavatavata Vachit Bhrashyanti Marga Tvai Baddha Sauhrida Tvaya Bhigupta Vicharanti Nirbhaya. Bhagavatam. For the Bhakt, he's protected. God is there in his heart, protecting his spiritual progress and keeping him on the path. Can you imagine? What could be greater than that? That's why Shree Krishna says, Kaunteya pratijanihi na me bhakta pranashyati. My bhakt can never fall. Imagine. He's giving a promise or a guarantee. Whereas the Gyani, even if he reaches the antim sima of his Gyan Marg, meaning before he surrenders to God and gets liberated, before that, when he's Atma Gyani, he can still fall. Gyani api chetansi devi bhagavati hisa balada krishya mohaya mahamaya prayachati. Maya is so strong that even that Gyani can get pulled back into Maya. So why doesn't the Bhakt fall when the Gyani in some ways seems so strong? Oh, he's renounced the world. He's meditating on formless God. Because his mind, after all, is Mayic, is it not? So on the power of your Mayic mind, how long are you going to stay away from Maya? The Mayic mind is naturally attracted to Mayic things. So God's grace, because a Bhakt is being graced by God during his path, but a Gyani is not. Why not? Because his Brahm, his formless God that he's meditating on, is Udasina Stabdha Satatamaguna Sangarahitam. Shankaracharya says, Nirakar Brahm doesn't do anything. He is Udasin, Akarta. So it means he doesn't even grace his own devotee, because Nirakar Brahm is inactive. So how can he grace? So the Jnani is meditating on Nirakar Brahm, but he's not getting the grace of God by doing that. Sakar Brahm, graces. So in fact, the Jnani is like the monkey. You see, both the Jnani and the Bhakt are God's children. But the Jnani is like a baby monkey. See, the baby monkey holds on from underneath to his mother, and the mother jumps from tree to tree, but the mother is not holding on to the baby. The baby has to hold on. If the baby lets go, falls down. So the Jnani, through the strength of his intellect, stays on the path. If he falters, Maya pulls him right back down, just like gravity. But the Jnani, the Bhakt, on the other hand, is like a baby cat, like a kitten. See, does the kitten have to worry? No, the mother holds the kitten in her mouth. So the baby's just free. Nishchint, no worries. So as long as the Bhakt is surrendered to God, God protects his Bhakt. See, look at in the Gita, how many promises Krishna makes for his Bhakt. Not a single promise for a Jnani. Ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate teshamaham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha mayyaveshita chetasam. Shree Krishna says, the one who wholeheartedly dedicates himself to me, exclusively does my bhakti and dedicates all of his actions to me, I take responsibility for getting him across this Maya. I take his responsibility. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. The one who does bhakti to me, Shree Krishna, if he surrenders to me, I take his full responsibility. I do his yogakshem vahan. It means I protect what he has gained, what you've gained spiritually, how far you've risen. I don't let you fall. And I ensure your further progress and your ultimate attainment. I do your yogakshem vahan. This promise is only for a bhakt. Again, he says, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyah ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mayite teshu chapyaham. Here he proves himself to be biased. In the first line he says, Samoham, I am the same to everybody. None is dear to me and none is an enemy to me. I view all the same. But if someone does bhakti to me, then I reside in him and he resides in me. In other words, I take care of him. I look after him. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tans tathaiva bhajamyaham. Here he says, if someone surrenders to me, if someone does my bhakti, then I serve him. Bhajamyaham. If someone surrenders to me as Krishna, then I do his seva. I do his bhakti. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchah. If someone does my bhakti and surrenders to me as Krishna, then I give him liberation from all of his past actions. They don't have to worry. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. If someone bhajatam priti purvakam, lovingly devotes themselves to me, in other words, does bhakti, then I give him a divine buddhi, divine knowledge, and he knows everything. Another promise for the bhakt, not for the jnani. Chipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat chantim nigacchati. No matter how fallen a soul is, if he becomes my bhakt, he becomes purified very quickly. And he becomes praiseworthy. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Arjun, if you do bhakti to me, then I promise you will come to me and stay with me forever. Mayyeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhin niveshaya nivasishyasi mayyeva ata urdhvam na sanshaya. Arjun, if you dedicate your man and buddhi to me through bhakti, then there is no doubt you will come to me and stay with me forever. So many promises for the bhakt, because the bhakt is dedicating himself to Krishna in his personal form so he can grace him. When he surrenders to his formless form, what can he do? Formless God does not grace. Thus, the jnani is in constant danger of falling. And bahunam janmanamante Gyanavan mam prapadyate. Gita. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidyatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvatah. Gita. It takes a jnani thousands of lifetimes to complete his path. He has to stay renounced from the world and keep practicing that sadhana of Gyan Marg until he becomes Atmajnani, and then he surrenders to the personal form of God to get his grace, to get liberated, to get Brahmagyan. The bhakt is surrendering to the personal form of God right from the beginning. So his path is not difficult. He dedicates himself to God. Even if he has bad days, God is still protecting him. He recovers, he continues on the path, and he can attain God in one lifetime. And he has God's protection the whole way along. So you see, although both a true jnani, the one who worships God in his formless form, and a bhakt, both are doing bhakti to God. Yet, one follows a very difficult path, and one follows a very easy path. It's like you come to a river, a fast-flowing river, and there's a beautiful palace on the other side that you want to get to, or a beautiful mandir. And there's a boat there with someone sitting in the boat willing to take you across. So you have a choice. I want to get there. Do I get in the boat and let him take me across? Or do I try to walk along the edge of the riverbank, following this trail through the jungle for who knows how long until I find a place to ford the river and then walk back along the other side? Who knows how long I would have to wander in that dense jungle? Would I get lost? Would I be able to follow the trail? Would I be able to cross the river? Choosing that route is like choosing Gyan Marg. And just getting in the boat and going across, that's Bhakti Marg. You just get in. God, I'm yours. I'm surrendered to you. You take me across. And Gyan Marg is, no, it's okay. I got it. I'll do this on my own. That's the difference. So that's why there's a tremendous level of difficulty in Gyan Marg. Although both are doing bhakti, yet the Jnani's path has a very high qualification to even begin. Then if he does qualify, the sadhana is very difficult. He may fall again and again because he has no protection from God. in the end, he has to surrender to the personal form of God anyway to get liberated. He's worshipping formless God, but in the end he needs the grace of Sakar Brahm to get liberated. So in the end he has to come to where the Bhakt was in the beginning. So after all of that, let's say you have one Gyani and you have one Bhakt. They've both reached the end. They both completed their heart purification and became completely surrendered to God, got God's ultimate grace, became free from Maya, and attained God. Now, if the world is fair, you would think both of them should have an equal experience, right? The Gyani and the Bhakt. Now both of them should have the same equal experience of God. Yet it is not so. Atma Ramascha Munayo Nirgrantha Apyurukrame Kurvantyahai Tukim Bhakti Mitham Bhuta Guno Hari Bhagavatam. It is said that the gunas, the qualities in Sakar Brahm, which has been attained by the Bhakti Yogi, the one who does devotion to the personal form of God, attains the personal form of God. So the bliss in the personal form of God, the qualities in the personal form of God, there's something special about them, because even that Paramahans, that Gyani Paramahans, who is already experiencing the bliss of Nirakar Brahm, he is forcibly attracted to Sakar Brahm. Even after he's gotten a divine experience of formless God, he still desires to experience the bliss of the personal form of God. And we have many, many examples of God-realized saints, Gyani saints, who are free from Maya and totally absorbed in the bliss of formless God, and then given a chance, they graduate. And they abandon their bliss of formless God because they want to experience the personal form of God. So why this is so and what these examples are as well, we'll see tomorrow, because we have to understand. Not only is the goal difficult, but in the end, the Gyani, you can't say his attainment is less because he also attained God. There aren't two gods. Nirakar and Sakar Brahm are not two, they're one. Yet, there's something so special in the bliss of Sakar Brahm that you could say it's a higher goal, because the ras that's experienced is something more that the Gyani doesn't experience from Nirakar Brahm. So we'll understand more about that tomorrow.